Wel dyma'r hen di rwy'n ei garu, hen di can a phennill yng Nghymru, a gwellt iddo'n
I'm Gwilym. I come from a village called Bethel, which is 10 minutes away in the car. So I grew up here and I went to the school in Llanberis, which is just the next village over. This one is a collection of what we call triban, like little poems that people used to sing whilst ploughing. You had an ox, you had one person holding this, and then another person standing in front of the oxen, singing and walking backwards like this, and the oxen would follow the song. They enjoyed the music. And the joke we say is, you know, when they used to sell the oxen into England, then the English people complained that the oxen didn't work, they didn't move, because they didn't sing.
So yesterday we went to Chepstow Castle, which was our first attraction, and first we learned about the history of the castle.
Wales is sort of known for having castles and stuff, so there's lots of really good castles around here. I know that it's got the oldest castle door in Europe. We're in Wales right now,
Okay.
and that's England.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the river that separates the two countries.
Why did you decide to pursue a career as a musician, and how did your journey begin?
Well, I didn't decide in a way, because I've been singing since I was 14 in different bands and doing work as well. I'm working in a bar or working in a shop. But then I stopped working in the bar and I'm just singing now. But I started, when I was 14 with my two cousins and a friend in a band, a rock band. And we were going for 9 years. And I also sing with my two sisters. And actually, I started singing solo when I was working in this pub, and I was very bad. I didn't understand the machines, and so they said, "Gwil, just sing in the corner. You're more useful to us singing in the corner." So that's how I started. Some of the inspirations are stories or like historical figures. But most of what I sing is actually songs that are old or traditional, like we don't know who wrote them, maybe 300 years ago or whatever, because the words are really beautiful, poetic. And I think that more people should hear them, more people here should hear them, like in Wales. Like we've got a very strong tradition of composing lyrics and composing poetry, and the lyrics can be very poetic. And the rhyming patterns, they're very rhythmic, the words.
Our next attraction was Tintern Abbey, which is a monastery. It was destroyed, but it's getting renovated right now.
Poetry is it has a very important place in our culture. On the radio, we have poets of the week, every week, different poets. We've got the big national festival, which is called Eisteddfod, and that happens every year in August, and it moves around. It's like a big outside festival. So there's like competitions in it, and the main prize is for the poem, long poem, and you win a big chair. It's like a throne. So the festival is called Eisteddfod, which literally means the sitting down festival. And that actually is the UK's best-selling annual poetry publication, but it's in Welsh. It just shows how much we are obsessed with poetry. Yeah. So that's, yeah, I would say that's the part of our heritage and culture that has influenced me most, is that poetry.
Da gen I fynd am Llances fwy I gwr a llun Gymru.
At the second day we were hiking to the top of the Pennyfern hill. In total it was great, but at the top of the hill it was very windy. It could have been better. Afterwards I was really exhausted and my legs were hurting, but the view paid off, so it was great.
Do everything without all the admin things that the managers do. So like in the morning it's doing the breakfast and housekeeping and then also evening meals and reception and that sort of thing.
Ar yntar hen gadwalad gŵr anodd iawn I drin.
And how's the weather in Wales? Well, today it's pretty bad, but Monday and Tuesday was actually really nice, so you timed your trip wrong.
A mynd ar ffylau'r dŵr A dyfod yn ei hola cant botas blawd a dŵr Fe ordra pawb I weithio gan redag fel aras.
And how did you discover your passion for the traditions and culture in Welsh?
When I started, I was in a rock band and singing in Welsh, but singing in Welsh wasn't like making a point. It's just in my village where I grew up, we didn't speak English growing up, and slowly over the years, sort of that sort of interest in poetry and the old songs with the really lovely poetical lyrics, slowly starting to go in that and discovering that there were many songs and things that nobody was singing, nobody had recorded them, they were just in notebooks. Why has nobody sung this song? It's so cool. I see it as like a contribution. The way I see what I do is a very tiny part, but it's contributing to fighting the cultural homogenization. It's very easy that everywhere will be the same, we will dress the same, we will go to the same shops and we will buy the same stuff, and we'll all, God forbid, one day maybe some people want everybody to speak the same way and speak the same language, and I'm like, no, please, no, we need to fight against that. If you go to if you travel to another side of the world and you go to a high street and it's the same shops, there's a McDonald's and a Starbucks.
Ambell I enw, ambell I gam, ambell I ffag sydd yn chwilio amdan, ambell I gysgod yn llygad hen ffrind, ambell un dwi'n di charu tan I bod I di mynd.
What's your name?
Matthew.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years of age.
Are you from Wales?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been a bus driver for?
2 years now.
How do you like the climate in Wales? like the weather?
I find it alright, to be honest with you. Like, you guys are cold on the bus, and I'm boiling. I've got the window open down the front. I'm like, but, you know, sometimes it does get too cold. That's why we go abroad a lot. We go to Spain and stuff.
It's like raining every day because...
You brought that with you. It's not usually rainy. Like, the past 2 weeks has been really sunny.
But it was so cold up on the mountain because it was so windy. And we nearly flew from the cliff and died because it was so windy. But everyone reached the top, reached the peak, so it was a success.
Tra bydd rhain mi feddai'n slaf I bob un o'r gwenoliaid rhwng rwan a'r haf. Ambell I enw, ambell I gan, ambell I ffag sydd yn chwilio amdan.
Yeah, and Professor Schaaf caught sheep today.
Yes, he rescued sheep. It was so nice of him.
Der Schaf hat das Schaf gerettet.
And they merged because
they want to go to their mommy, but they were like separated from her because of a fence.
But then they also merged because they wanted to say thank you.
Yes,
to the professor.
they just were two little dumb sheep that got themselves ausgespielt.
But Herr Professor saved them. Herr Professor.
And Professor Steindl was also a help.
Was also a help.
Nice.
Okay,
bye.
Yn byw yn ochr uchar plant. Fa la la o rwy'n hapus, fa la la la. Mynd heibion gawr mae gŵr plas nant.
And then we stopped there and had around 2 hours where we had free time and could explore Mumbles. It was really fun, like to see the sea and the coast, and the people were really friendly. So everyone like had a smile on their face and they really enjoyed the sun and the view.
Okay, what's the best part of this area? Like,
if you go further west,
yeah,
some really fine beaches. If you like beaches.
I lived in Swansea, which is an hour away. We used to holiday here since I was a baby, and then as adults we used to come twice a year, and we decided it was so lovely we would like to live here.
That's
so
beautiful.
But currently I'm working here, checking all the boats that are here to make sure we've got the ones we should have and none of the ones we shouldn't have.
And why did you decide to come here?
My wife's from Swansea, so when we retired from our original work, we retired here because it's quite nice.
Yeah, it actually is.
I dywydd cynnes yn nesaf falala. Bydd swyn a teiniol a lawr nant
And then we walked back and ate ice cream.
It chose ice cream that is a recommendation from Matthew, but it wasn't that good. It's Isabella as well.
We had the option to stand up early in the morning, like 5 a.m, to go to the cliffs to see the sunrise.
Well, I used to work here about 10 years ago. I don't work here anymore. Yeah, I mean, I'm working at the YHA. It's pretty fun. It's pretty interesting. You get to meet lots of different people, and really try and make people's holiday experience as good as possible.
And we had to get up early, like every morning, and went to a Coastwalk. And we started at our hostel and went to Tenby, which is a beautiful town next to the sea.
Can you tell us about the significance of the Welsh language in your daily life?
In my daily life, it's very important. I use it most days, pretty much every day. I don't really read books in English. I read mostly like Welsh fiction. I have a lot of friends that speak Welsh. It's quite good because we have what we call code switching, whereby if you're speaking with someone that speaks Welsh and English, you can just switch between the two languages. Over 2/3 of the world's population are bilingual. I mean, I'm bilingual, you're bilingual. So it's quite normal to switch between different languages. I think it's very good for your brain. But yeah, it's incredibly important. And I think it really gives a great sense of our own culture and that we're not English. That's really important.
And we went down to the beach, where we found out that there are many tourists in Tenby that can speak Welsh.
Yeah, most of the Welsh population doesn't speak Welsh. So the last census showed that 17% of the population of Wales speaks Welsh, and that's down from, in 1900 it was about 50% of the Welsh population. Obviously, the English language is completely dominant. The English language is probably the most influential language in the world. And it's very difficult being a minority language, living right next to such a linguistically powerful neighbour, and it tends to drown you out. So it's quite impressive that the Welsh language has continued for so long.
Wales was an independent country until the Middle Ages, around the year 1300, or well, the date was 1282 when England finally conquered Wales, and since then we've been part of, the United Kingdom. And after that, actually, well, there was a king of England in the 15th century, and he was half Welsh, and because of that we were like, oh, everything's fine now, the King of England is Welsh, so they will look after us. And since then, really, we have been loyal to the English crown, even though there's a big nationalistic movement still wanting Wales to be an independent country because it's got its own culture and language and heritage and history and everything. That's one reason that the language was still alive, because we were no political threat to England, so they let us be. They let us live in the mountains in peace. Another reason, and very different to other countries like Ireland and Scotland, where there were hundreds and thousands of them went to places like the United States and other places to look for work. But in Wales, there was a lot of industry, especially in South Wales. You were in the Banau Brycheiniog, or Brecon Beacons. Near there were lots of coal mining. And around here, as you've seen, it was the slates to put on the roofs. So there was enough work to keep people here, but not so much work that people came in, it was just enough to keep the local people in work. Another reason is religion. In Wales, we changed from being a Catholic country to being a Protestant country in the 16th century. Part of Protestantism at the start was the idea that people should be able to read and interpret the scriptures in their own language. rather than having somebody telling them what this Latin book is saying, you know. But the other side of that is that the Protestant religion here wanted to kill all the culture that was not the religious culture, you know. If there was people having a good time dancing, oh no. The Protestants don't like that. People playing music in the taverns and the pubs, no. We have to stop that. So we've lost a lot of traditions here because of the religion.
Naturiaeth, Neath rier a thrawiaeth, ond wylo ganalaeth, a hiraeth am hon, ar galon dan glwyfau, diles a diloesau.
We have a lot of quite agricultural idioms. So for example, we'd say to complete a task is to bring the stone to the wall, because if you're building a stone wall, you might say, oh, I brought the stone to the wall, I finished it. We also say Cawd cyn cwn caia, which means to get up really early, because many years ago when the Middle Ages, if a Welshman was caught inside the walls of Chester, which is Caia, he would be shot. It was allowed that you could shoot a Welshman. So if you were visiting a friend in Chester, you would have to get up really early in order to leave town before sunrise, so that means to get up really early.
There are only 500,000 Welsh speakers, really. 3 million people live in Wales and only 500,000 or 600,000 Welsh speakers. And that's not much, no. But we've got a very flourishing music scene, like every genre you can think of, like we sing it. If you turn on the radio to Radio Cymru, which is the Welsh language radio, there's not much like folk or traditional stuff. It's all pop, rock, hip hop. Yeah, so there are many singers and musicians. So I grew up around them and they.
Manghariad i eleni yn gwisgo hosas. Ai chwrlins bach yn dangos, ai chwrlins bach yn dangos, ai chwrlins bach yn dangos pan ni'n rodio mas.
It's very funny here because we're very close to England and a lot of people from England come here as tourists and very surprised sometimes to hear people talking Welsh. Like when there's a pub near where I live, and if you go on TripAdvisor or whatever, Google Maps, there's people who leave reviews. And some people say, oh, wonderful place, I had a warm welcome, and it was so cool to hear people speaking Welsh. And then somebody else said, very rude people, I couldn't understand anything, and they were all speaking Welsh so that I couldn't understand what they're saying.
Besi bod ar y ffyliad dylion, besi bod ar y ffyliad dylion, besi bod ar y ffyliad dylion am garu hariadu.
Time to take pictures, and we did many stops, and we climbed on every rock. Yes, and it was really beautiful walk.
Less people speak it because a lot of people move here who don't speak Welsh, and then sort of like people like to move to little like towns and villages like this because it's really nice, and then like people like make their own businesses here or live here for the mountains and like mountain areas. But you do get a lot of people still, like the locals in this little town, speaking Welsh. When people move here, as long as you know like hello, goodbye, or you like want to learn a little bit and not like learn at all.
In comparison to England, Wales and also Scotland have much more of a sort of separate culture from UK culture. Like especially if you go to North Wales, you'll actually hear Welsh being spoken like naturally, whereas in South Wales, like probably not. I have only heard it a couple of times, but like North Wales, you'll hear it just in normal life, and everyone gets taught it in school as well. So, like even though I can't speak Welsh, I can read road signs. Like I can understand most things on the sign. Like I can figure out a decent amount of stuff.
Ai chwrlins bach yn dangos, ai chwrlins bach yn dangos, ai chwrlins bach yn dangos pan ni'n hopio ma.
This part of the country is really nice, lots of countryside. Everyone's really friendly in Wales. It's different to London. Everyone's really friendly.
Yeah, we have recognized them too. Like everyone we have asked, they were all so nice, and everyone just wanted to talk with us and interact with us.
It was a challenge But all in all, it was a really nice walk and we could see many things. And for me, it was the highlight of the week because, as Lydia said, the nature was really amazing to look at because we saw so many different sides. Also, the weather was sunny. That was the first day where it was really warm and you could really enjoy the view because it wasn't foggy or raining.
And we saw a big jellyfish. Whatever you guys is. Wibbly wobbly.
What's the best part about living in Wales?
The beaches.
Today is the 26th. At about 9 o'clock, Matthew picked us up and we drove for about half an hour to a castle.
The castle we went to was Pembroke Castle.
We had about 1 hour to explore everything, and from the top of the castle we had a beautiful view.
My name's John Williams and I'm the manager here at Pembroke Castle Trust. We look after Pembroke Castle as an ancient monument. We make it available to visitors on a daily basis. We're open every day of the year except for a few days around Christmas. And we maintain it and do a lot of interpretation. So we tell the history of the castle to our visitors when they come in. They can learn all about the history. In Wales we have a lot of castles. So we have a lot of ancient monuments and castles. Wales is the castle capital of the world, really, in terms of the size of the country to the ancient monuments that we have. The story behind this one is that in the 1920s, a local landowner, Major General Sir Ivor Phillips, bought the castle after the First World War. It was his retirement project, and he poured a lot of his family's money into restoring the castle as to how you see it today. So bits of this castle have been restored, which means that people are able to get around. Whereas in the 1920s, if you'd come in here, some of it would have been intact and some of it would have been in disrepair. There are two theories around what you should do with this kind of building. Some people like to see them restored so that they're pretty much as they were in medieval times in terms of the building and how it works. And it's preserved for future generations. Some people think we shouldn't interfere with the buildings and we should allow them to naturally decay so that, you know, what you're seeing is 1,000 years old, every brick, every part of it, rather than having had modern interference, I guess. So we've taken the perspective here, obviously, that it's good to restore a castle like this, allow people to get to every part of the castle, make it safe, and preserve it for future generations. But we do that very carefully, so we have to go through Welsh Government whenever we need to do any work to any part of the castle. It's a very good representation of a Norman castle. So this is over 900 years old and was built just after the Norman conquest of 1066. A number of castles were thrown up during that period, and if you went from here to, say, Chepstow Castle, all the way over on the border with England, it's in Wales, but right on the border, you'll see very familiar features between this castle and somewhere like Chepstow. I suppose the most interesting features of this castle are the round tower keep, which in its time we think was the tallest building in the UK. Certainly the tallest building within a castle in the UK, and was quite a unique design and still stands pretty much as it was when it was built sort of 800 years ago. Norman castles and the Welsh castles have similar features because the Welsh started to mimic, copying the Normans in their stone-built castles after the Norman invasion. The Welsh castles as a whole, I would say, tend to be a bit smaller. So they're more in the centre of Wales. The Normans very quickly took over the coastal areas of Wales because that's where the power was, that's where the trade routes were to France, to Europe. So the Welsh castle, the Welsh were almost forced by the Normans to inhabit the middle part of Wales, the mountainous areas, and it's a bit harder there to sort of get supplies too, so they tend to be quite small. On top of hills, the Welsh castle, very much on top of hills, whereas this is on top of a limestone rock overlooking the sea, really. So this was a very easy place to build a castle of this size, whereas some of the places that you'll find some stunning Welsh castles, Welsh princes' castles, and they're really picturesque, but they're a lot smaller in scope. Pembroke Castle was a castle that was easy to defend for the Normans against the Welsh mostly. So the Welsh did try to sort of overrun this castle and put it under siege several times, but failed. So the only time that this castle was taken by force was during the English Civil War. So it was sort of beyond its useful date by that point, because it wasn't built for cannon fire. But the other thing is that this castle was an administrative centre. So Pembroke was the capital really of West Wales for the Normans. So there would have been a court here, they would have minted coins, they would have dispensed justice, they would have had meetings. So this was an administrative centre, more so really than a defensive castle, because it was used, more of its time was used for administration than actually defending itself. What proves that this castle was so well built by the Normans, in such a good spot, but also the walls, the fortification, the towers, the design of it was so well built that even Oliver Cromwell with his mighty siege guns took 2 months to take this castle. And basically they took the castle not really through the siege guns, but through the siege itself. So they basically starved the royalists out of the castle.
We have a lot of industry here, and in South Wales we had lots of coal mining, and because the burning of the coal they used it in many industries. A lot of other industries went to the coal rather than moving the coal to somewhere else. It was all the factories, the metal, Steel and copper and things all went where the coal was. So it's a very populous area.
Then in the Corris Mine it was an adventure because I like mines very much. I think it's special because we don't go there every day.
And I discovered that my great-great-great-grandfather was a miner in the coal mine, and he died in an explosion. There was an explosion in that mine, and 115 of the workers died. But these explosions happened all the time, because they were very far under the ground, maybe 1 kilometre under the ground. But they had what they call a Davy lamp, which is a kind of lamp that is it's like a metal lamp, and the light changes colour if there is gas around, dangerous gas. The light turns like blue, so they know to get out, you know. But some of the owners of the mines didn't want to spend money on the lamps. They wanted to save money and not buy the safety equipment, even though they were available, but they didn't want to spend the money. So they forced the miners to go down with candles on their helmets. So yeah, this is a song about the injustice of that industrial area.
What education or training you need to do this job?
There's various things you need to be qualified in. The first one basically is managing children, without their parents. So there's quite a lot of courses you have to do on that. Also you need training in medical, because it's very much self-rescue, and the knowledge of the mine itself. Now the knowledge of the mine can take a long time to learn yourself, so that's not so much a course you go on, it's just experience, life experience. And I've done caving and exploring all my life, so you build up this knowledge as you go. And then we do lots of research, so I go to libraries and university library in Aberystwyth, and there's lots of old documents about the mine and when it used to be worked, so you can pick up all this knowledge as well.
We are currently sat in what is called the Bright Door Slate Mine. It was first opened in 1836, that is a year before Queen Victoria's reign. There are 9 levels total. So, what are they mining down here? They're mining slate. Slate is basically mud that's been compressed over hundreds of millions of years, sort of forms on layers at the bottom of the ocean, hundreds of slate over time. We talked about mortality rate a few moments ago. So, what was your biggest enemy down here? Gravity. The falls are the things which kill people most. And if we look just up here, you see a lot of very, very old chains. Now, back in the day, they didn't really have health and safety policies like we have today. So they would have wrapped their legs in those chains, they would have followed these chains up the slate as far as they could go, and they would have been mining from the top. All of this is man-made, whole thing. Not a section of this mine is naturally occurring. So what that means is that they had miners working here for a very long time. So on average, we can deduce that roughly miners mined out 10 tons of slate per week on average. 90% of that stuff was waste, and they weren't paid for that. They were really paid for the good stuff that they mined out, so 1 ton a week. And they got paid roughly £5 a month. Back then, 1836, remember, £5 a month is a pretty decent amount of money. It's equivalent to your modern day sort of heavy goods vehicle driver. Guys who were tunnelling, not chiselling out the slate, tunnelling, 17 miles of tunnel down here, and they would have been paid per yard, or per chisel's length, roughly. We know this chisel came from this chamber. If we look just up there, you can see a hole that was made by this very same chisel. And it fits in there pretty much spot on, I'd say. These are all as the miners left them. These are the original tools from this chamber. Here we have some improvised tools. Miners were masters of upcycling. They would have bought things in from home because, as we talked about, those tools and things that were on the table there, guess what, folks? Each and every one of them was rented. That's right, so if something broke, or you broke something while you were using it, it came out of your own wages. Candles. They wouldn't have had any of these modern torches you've got now, they wouldn't have had lanterns, they wouldn't have had any other form of light down here. If everybody would like to turn their torches off for one moment. And that was the light you had. So you're looking at no more than 3-ish candles per chamber of this size, and you can see how little that illuminates this place.
So that tells you there must have been quite a lot of accidents, yeah? On average, there was an accident, definitely 2 a month. Unlike today where we record all accidents and we learn from our recordings, back then it wasn't recorded. Yeah, it was just, if anything, it was against you. If you had an accident, you most probably would lose your job because it would cost the company money otherwise.
They used all sorts of awful methods of working down there, and you started as young as 8 and could die as young as 35. So there were 3 things that miners typically drank: water, cold tea, and a third really important one was buttermilk. It was like an energy drink back then. It had all the fats, all the sugars and stuff, so it gave you a bit of an energy boost. You think, you're working down here 11 hours a day, you felt the weight of that chisel. You're mining out 11 hours a day, and it is exhausting work, so that buttermilk would have given them a bit of an energy boost. As we've discussed, we have 84 chambers in this mine total. 84 across 17 miles of tunnel on 9 levels. It started in 1836. They stopped mining down here in 1970, so that's 134 years total. This is also known as an open cast quarry because of this big open bit at the top there. Everything down here was mined by hand. No gunpowder, no explosives, no modern sort of tools or tricks. Bear in mind, you were working in groups of 4 to 6 people using a hammer and a chisel.
My first mine I went into was when I was about 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
So all my life really, yeah. And then in our country we had the Cubs and Scouts. So we go, there's these organisations for youngsters to get involved in adventure basically. So I went through all that as a young child and that, so I've always been keen and do silly things. What's very important is that we're passing on knowledge, yeah? You know, he's younger than me, yeah? He's going to be on this planet hopefully a lot longer than I'm going to be on this planet. So we need to pass on our knowledge. And then we don't lose the history. It's important, the history of the people that worked here in the past. Yeah?
It's important to understand how different things were back then.
It's very different, especially for you youngsters, because it's all done through phones and there's very little physical jobs work now, yeah? So it's such a different world. It's important that people like you understand how things were done in the past so you can learn for the future. The special thing about the job, the unexpected, yeah? Because you just don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know, as I said to you, ask me any questions you like, you just don't know what question is going to be asked. So sometimes we take quite young children and, 7-year-old kids are asking you crazy questions and
you
stuff.
learn something from it.
Yeah.
Quite like the sort of uniqueness of it. It's all about that for me. There is no other job.
And we don't have a set pattern, there's no set routine. We sort of ad-lib it.
You have mentioned that you also can guide like blind people.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Right, so the simple answer to that is obviously it's mainly touch. So for instance, we were talking about those long chisel marks, weren't we? So obviously if you were blind now, I would be talking to you, but I would just guide your hand and you'd run it along the chisel mark, so you can feel what we're talking about.
When we were talking about the chisels in the ladder chamber, just pass that around the group, everyone gets an idea of the weight of the thing and an idea of what it feels like to hold it. I feel like that's also important, that kind of tactile learning.
Yeah.
Because when you put it into perspective, these guys are working down there 11 hours a day, 6 days a week. These chisels are quite heavy, and you can talk to somebody about the weight of something all day long, but you don't really get an idea of it until you're holding the thing in your hand and really getting an idea of it.
See, the candle alone, see? Now, if you were blind, you wouldn't be able to see the candle, but if I put your hand near the candle, you'd feel the heat. Yeah, so they can still get it, but in a different sort of way, And the size of the chamber, you could see the size. They can't see it, so all you do is you just make an echo, shout, and you get an echo, and then they get the concept of it, but just in a totally different way, using different senses. Yeah, so, and it's rewarding for us as well, obviously, because people like that don't always get the opportunity, especially in the tourist industry. It's too easy to say, no, we can't take it.
After the tour, when we were driving to our next hostel, Matthew took another road to show us more about Wales, but we stopped like every 2 minutes because the buses were too big for the road. So when cars were coming, we have to stop.
And what's your craziest experience that you have ever?
Driving, probably this. This is tight. What we come through earlier on, that's mad.
The route Matthew took was worth it because we saw a lot of the nature and we enjoyed it.
But the bus ride was okay because of our great bus driver Matthew.
Also, the bus driver Matthew is a funny guy.
And in your opinion, what's the best destination on our trip right now?
This. This place here has been on my phone on Google Maps for about 2 years that I wanted to come to, and my boss said, oh, you're doing this trip. And I read the itinerary of where we were going, and I saw that we were here by the slate quarry, and I was like, oh my god, I really can't wait. This is probably the best trip I've got so far, because I wanted to come to these places.
Up into 2 groups and went hiking. One group went on the Snowdon, and it was like 1,000 meters of ascent and about 18.6 kilometers. And the walk up there was exhausting, but it was
a great experience, and we were really proud of each other
because we
made it.
Do you hike up there often?
Not as much as I used to. I used to go up every month.
What's like the craziest thing you experienced while working here?
But I see people in flip-flops.
Hike up there.
High heels.
Oh no!
First, the weather was really bad and it was windy and a bit foggy.
Is the weather always like that?
No. I think Ben Nevis in Scotland only gets 20 clear days a year, but we get far more than that.
Rita and Idris, and of course they hated each other. And in the end, Idris killed Rita, and then he instantly felt terrible and guilty because he realised, I am now the last giant. I'm going to be lonely for the rest of my life. So Idris, as in honour of his old friend Rita, piled stones on top of his body, and that's what you climbed today, the grave of Rita.
But after we reached the top, the weather was better and we can see some other mountains in the distance.
And the other group first walked to the waterfall and then around the lake. It was really interesting to see the other perspective of Llanberis.
When we arrived at the hostel, a Welsh folk singer actually visited us and performed some Welsh songs. And it was really interesting because we've never heard something like that before. And he was really nice and explained the phrases and the meaning of the songs. It's obvious I can't understand it, but his voice is really good.
Yeah, and it was really a really good day today too.
His voice was crazy, actually really good.
What role does music play in Welsh culture?
Music is massively important, and a lot of artists that could sing in English, and if you sing in English then you could potentially get worldwide success, right?
Yeah.
But they don't, they choose to sing in Welsh. But yeah, I think that music is important because it kind of gives the language voice, and as a minority language it's very important that we exist in all areas, right? You don't want it to be a boring textbook language. We say Wales is the land of song.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that everyone in Wales can sing, but probably a much higher proportion of people in Wales can sing than other countries. I don't know.
Manuela o sgwarno Gwilym ar lawr, fe Dafydd yn cerdded a'i fwriad yn fawr. Mi sei beth o'n gelain yn gawrain ar gwn, yn gwn ac yn gathodyn yn nodi o hwn.
It was our last drive with Matthew. First we drove to Aber Falls whiskey distillery, where we found out how whiskey and gin are made.
My name's Dylan Roberts. I am a visitor centre manager, so what my job here is to make sure that the visitor centre runs well. That includes the cafe, the tours. We've got opportunities to make gin labs. I do the website, I also do a bit of social media, a little bit everything that it needs for our visitors, really, members of the public to come here. We started in 2018 to distill whiskey. A whiskey takes 3 years to mature, so that's a long time to wait before you you get any money for it. So what we did, we made gin in the meantime, because gin you can make in a few hours. One of the issues we've had is we've always been a whiskey distillery, but still people think of us as a gin distillery, because what happened was our gins became really popular, especially over lockdown, and everybody knows Aber Falls gin, especially the Aber Falls orange marmalade gin. We've got fans of it all over the world, really, but people go, oh no, you're a gin distillery, when did you start making whiskey? We started making whiskey first, so that's the big issue there, but it was 2018 we started. Why should someone buy our whiskey? Well, we think that our whiskey tastes great, and there's so many good whiskies out there. One of the things about our whiskey is, one, it's affordable, it's not as expensive as the other whiskies that you might have to buy in the market. It's easy to drink as well, you don't have to be an expert to enjoy it. Some whiskies are very complicated, so ours is an easy one to drink, it's smooth, it's has a caramel flavour. Also, lots of whiskies in Wales, to be called Welsh whiskey, have to stick to certain rules, and we're kind of better at those rules than other people at the moment, because it's not only that our stuff is made in Wales, bottled in Wales. What's great is most things are local. The water we get from the river just next to us, it runs down from Aber Falls, which is a big waterfall further up the river, so that's why we get a name. The yeast we buy in, the barley comes from Pembrokeshire in South Wales, so it's still a Welsh product. Other resources can come from all over the country or the world, really. We try and do as many things here locally, especially in the visitor centre, because our job is to promote Welsh food and products, and that's not always possible because not everything is grown and made in Wales or affordable to buy from Wales, but we do everything we can. We're hopefully the Welshest whiskey you can get. I like whiskey because many whiskies are the same ingredients, it's just 3 ingredients, but there's so many other things that can alter the taste. It could be the weather, where the whiskey is matured, it can be what wood they've used in the casks, it can be the quality of the water. Even though you're having the same thing, the same ingredients, it can taste different everywhere you get it from, and how long it's been in the cask as well. So that's exciting every time. So the way our whiskey differs from other places is that in different countries, or like Scotland, for example, as you said, they use a peat, so peat smoke to dry out the barley, which can give it peat flavour, but peat's not very environmentally friendly. We need to keep it in the ground because it captures carbon, so we don't do that. Also, you can use peat to mask any bad flavours in the whiskey. We don't want to do that either. But also, like I said earlier, everything in the whiskey is depending on the flavours, depending on where the water's from, where the barley is from, where the yeast is from, the wood we use, and the weather here. And we've got a unique microclimate which will have a impact on how our whiskey tastes as well and how it matures. It hasn't got too many complicated flavours in there, so you might try a bottle of whiskey which is hundreds of pounds, and you might need to be a whiskey expert to really appreciate how that tastes, whereas you could buy our whiskey, which is currently £20, and enjoy it. So it's a nice, simple, honest flavour.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, although we couldn't taste it, obviously.
We could smell it, but yeah.
And it was so sweet from Professor Standel that she allowed us to take whiskey with us for our parents.
Yn gwisgo trwsus a amdanynt mor dyn, ond ydy'n beth sy'n gweld merched fel hyn, yn gwisgo trwsus a amdanynt mor dyn.
What's one thing you wish more people knew about Wales?
Just how beautiful it is, really.
Yeah.
You look around here, the mountains and the beaches and everything that people don't get to see.
Deep in love, and cais fy nghangen gyd.
Can you tell us maybe something to eat for try?
I think, do you know the really long town name in North Wales?
Oh, yeah.
It's Llanberis of Gwilym, Gwilym, Rhyn Drogo, Llanberis City, Gwilym.
Near well-loving in man, such a damsel in my sight. Ar y ferch mor lan o liw, she is a beauty bright. And oh, ar y ferch mor lan o liw, y
How annoying do you think we are on a scale from 1 to 10?
You guys?
Yeah.
0. You guys are good. You're probably the nicest people I've met so far. And I'm not lying.
And the thing we hate the most about this entire trip is taking this audio diary
and packing our suitcase every 2 days because it's a mess.
And
we are
the
grateful
evening-
for every food.
Oh, yeah.
Also the disgusting one.
And there was a seagull and she was really mad at us and she was just screaming at us and she wanted food, and then we gave her Shahir's fries because they were not so good, and then another one came and they were really annoying.
Laura hopped over the fence like a ninja.
It was really nice to see like an other side of Wales, because I mean the day before we have like saw the seaside, but it wasn't the same. It was the nature in Wales has so many sides, from mountains to the sea to lakes to forests, and the sheep are really nice. They're everywhere sheep.
Yeah.
But it was really cool week. Thank you for planning all this stuff.
And we're feeling gorgeous.
Really fit after all those.
Yeah, but I've got a muscata.